two, 1 2. Hello, check, 1 2.
This is the rhythm of the night. Let me say yeah. Let me say yeah. I'm on the edge, I know the last. I work real hard to collect my cash. Tick, 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 take the time. When I'm going for mine. Open your ears and you will hear it. I tell you this cause there's no limit. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, no, there's no limit. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, no, there's no limit. No limits allowed cause there's much crowd. Microphone check as I choose my route. I'm playing on the road, I've got no fear. The sound from my mouth is a rap you hear. No valley too deep, no mountain too high. Reach the top, touch the sky. You try to diss me cause I sell out. I'm making techno when I am proud.
You sure do. Come on, baby.
Let
Good afternoon, everybody. On the 3rd of June, thank you, mate. Where are you from? Where are you from? Oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah. Are you downwind of a couple already? You've had a bigger lunch than I've had. God, he must be screaming. He's absolutely steaming, isn't he? That's all right. There's still plenty of beer left in the pub, mate. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye. Lots of love. Lots of love. As I was saying, on the 3rd of June, I decided that I would not. Boring. 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 Well, this is good preparation for the House of Commons, I suppose, isn't it? Very good preparation. It's going to be very lively in there, isn't it? Oh, do buck up, really, please, love. I'm so sorry. Well, I'm enjoying this. Bye, darling. Have a lovely day. Lots of love. Any more for any more?
Actually, yes.
I mean, we haven't organised this very well, have we? You're very angry. Oh dear. Listen, mate, you'll have a stroke. You'll have a stroke. You'll do yourself a nasty, mate, honestly. You'll have a stroke if you go on like this. Yeah. Well, we'll find out later whether they're actors and whether they worked in conjunction with Channel 4. Sorry. Of course. No, this can go on for hours. I'm fine. No problem at all. Yeah. As they may well be actors. They may well be actors. We've seen this before, but Channel 4, of course, had absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. Oh, the anger. The anger. Well, at least they're showing their anger in public. The political establishment are in fear in private as to what happened last night with those results in the elections. And I said on the 3rd of June, when I decided to come out of retirement and get back involved in frontline politics, that I had two very clear objectives. The first was for us to get millions of votes. The second was to establish a bridgehead in Parliament. And you can see there are four of us up here now as we bite our nails with what is going on in Basildon and Thurrock right now, where our candidate, James McMurdoch, on the first count was ahead by 120 votes. On the second count was ahead again, and there is a full recount taking place as I speak. So I'm very hopeful it won't be 4. I'm very hopeful that it will be 5 within the space of the next couple of hours. Now, The results show us some very interesting things. If we had proportional representation, we'd be looking at nearly 100 seats. But equally, first past the post inverts the other way, where Labour get almost the same number of votes they got, well, in fact, fewer votes they got under Corbyn, and yet 200 more seats. It is very much my view that our outdated first past the post electoral system is not fit for purpose, and we will campaign with anyone and everyone to change this electoral system. That certainly we'll be doing, and we'll make those arguments in Parliament as quickly as we can. The results show there is absolutely no enthusiasm for Starmer's Labour whatsoever. And it was interesting to watch Starmer speak outside number 10, his first Prime Ministerial address, having been to see the King. And you know, in the course of that speech, he looked down at his notes over 150 times. Once every 2.8 seconds. Now, I don't think these people with me need a script because they know what they believe in. And when it comes to providing the voice of opposition, well, we may be too few in number to necessarily be thought of as the opposition in the House of Commons. But let me promise you something. We are going to be the opposition around the country. We are all committed to working for our constituents. We are all committed to doing the best we can in Parliament. But above all, what we are going to do from today is we are going to professionalise the party. We are going to democratise the party, and those few bad apples that have crept in will be gone, will be long gone, and we will never have any of their type back in our organisation. You have the 100% promise on that. What is remarkable is the energy and enthusiasm of those that have come to us over the course of the last few weeks. They were voting with passion. We organised meetings around the country at 24 hours' notice. The venues were all full. This energy and optimism is being reflected today as one member of the public every minute joins the party. A member a minute is joining the party as we speak. And it really is my aim and ambition to create a mass movement across this country that will change politics for good, that will change politics forever. We've got the energy, we've got the optimism, we've got the enthusiasm, and we will do it. Now, I'd like you please to listen to the Member of Parliament for Boston and Skegness, Richard Tice.
Thank you, Nigel. On behalf of my constituents. The constituents of Boston and Skegness have sent me here to Westminster to represent them because they want real people to tell it as it is. What I heard on thousands and thousands of doors, the concerns of the constituents of Boston and Skegness are issues that, of course, the establishment didn't want to talk about. Have been let down by the establishment over many, many years. That is why I overturned the biggest ever Tory majority, ever. My constituents want an MP standing here in Westminster, shouting from the rooftops, a national voice representing their concerns. And the truth is, but they feel poorer. That is the reality. Wages have been suppressed, and the quality of life, contrary to what has been promised, has reduced. The access to healthcare is worse. People feel less secure on their streets. They're wondering, how did this happen? That's why I have been sent to Parliament, and my pledge to my constituents is, whatever the issue, we will stand up, we will debate it, we will talk about it, we won't be too afraid about it. I'll just give you one example. When net zero was signed through Westminster in 90 minutes without a debate, in 2019, no cost, did anyone say that it would require hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of massive pylons to sear through the countryside of Boston and Skegness, ruining their constituents? No one mentioned that. What we're about is the truth, telling it as it is. So my pledge to everybody in Boston and Skegness, whether you voted for me or did not, I will stand up for you, I will represent you in Parliament and in your constituency, and we at Reform UK, we will make a difference, we will change politics for good. Thank you very much.
Old Labour was very, very patriotic. It believed in the country, it believed in its people. New Labour, far less so. And the journey that Lee Anderson has been on is a journey that at least a couple of million people have been on, and it'll be many, many more by the time we're finished. Because be in no doubt, our priority now is to go after Labour votes. That is what we're going to be doing. Lee Anderson took a brave decision. He decided to join Reform UK. He was much mocked and derided by colleagues who had similar political opinions to him but didn't have the guts to do it. They've all lost their seats. Fortune favours the brave, and it's favoured absolutely Lee Anderson from Ashfield. Well, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Reformers. It's great to be here. Look, I live in a place called Ashfield, and I've said many, many times over the past few weeks that Ashfield is the capital of common sense in this country. Because politics should not be so difficult. It's not rocket science. You know, most politicians over in that place, they go home each weekend and speak to their constituents and tell them what they should be thinking and what they should be doing. They've got it the wrong way round. What we should do as MPs to represent our constituents is to go home each weekend, listen to people in the pubs, listen to people in the streets, listen to people at our surgeries, and then go back to Parliament the following week and ask the same questions that they're asking in the pubs, in the streets, in the shops, in the supermarkets. It's that simple. And just a few years ago, I was one of those people like you out here, looking at the TV, looking at the green benches, screaming at the TV, saying, what the hell are you playing at? Get Brexit done. Sort yourselves out. Listen to us. And they just don't listen. But you know what? These people listen here. Nigel listens, Richard listens, and Rupert listens. When we go to that place next week, I can't wait to get on the green benches with this stuff. These are Can you imagine this shy and retiring Nigel Farage too scared to speak out and speak his mind? Listen, expect fireworks next week because these people are going to start speaking common sense. Instead of self-serving their self-interest, they're going to speak up on behalf of the British people. We're going to get the job done. This Starmer and his motley crew, I'm telling you now, there's about 400 of them, absolutely scares me to death. I'm going to be sat on the green benches next week looking at them and thinking, my goodness, what has this country come to? But these four here, including me, maybe five, it's a fab four at the moment. I'm hoping it's going to be the famous five next week. But we're going to go next week, we're going to kick some ass, and we're going to hold these people to account and speak up on behalf of the British people. Thank you, Nigel.
Anderson as plain spoken as ever. Now, I went to Great Yarmouth during the election campaign where Rupert Lowe was standing for us, and I could tell that the revolt was in full swing. From a complete standing start, Rupert Lowe has managed to win the Great Yarmouth constituency. Interestingly, he was, in times gone past, chairman of Southampton Football Club, which has a very famous supporter called Rishi Sunak. Funny how things work out. Rupert, please come to the stage.
Well, I'm told this will be working by the time I get here. Good afternoon, everybody. I kicked off my campaign in Great Yarmouth on May the 10th. I was totally unknown in Great Yarmouth. I stood there because my great friend June Mummery, who I wrote half the fishing paper with, she advised me I should stand in Great Yarmouth because they're proper people there, as Harry Redknapp had said. I got to know them all very well, and I have to say, I really like the people there. They're real people. And they fought for their constituency, they fought for common sense, and they've supported me unbelievably. So I am eternally grateful to the people of Great Yarmouth for giving me the privilege of being elected as an MP, which is something I've always wanted to do. I told them the job is big. We have to sort the head of the beast out first. That's Westminster and the civil service. They are crowding out the private sector. They are shutting down enterprise. They are stopping risk-taking. And at the end of the day, this country has the best people. We just have to release them from the manacles of the state. And it won't happen, as George Galloway said, if we indulge the two cheeks of the same backside, which is the blues and the reds. We need some proper people from outside politics. And what happened last night, in my view, was seismic. We've actually now, a bit like D-Day, the Reform Party has built a bridgehead over on the French coast. Our job now, under Nigel, is to group, go inland, and challenge Keir Starmer and the Labour Party that didn't, in my view, get a proper mandate. It won by default, got less votes than Jeremy Corbyn in 2019. They're vulnerable. 17.4 million people voted for Brexit, which we haven't had. As Nigel says, the target for us now is to go after the Labour Party and go after them in full strength. The economy, I think, is about to turn down. They're going to find it very difficult. They're not inheriting an economy such as the one they inherited from the last Conservative government. And last time, remember, the problems all started with the four horsemen of the apocalypse: Blair, Brown, Campbell and Mandelson. Our country was in great shape till about 97. We had very little national debt. Our economy was in good shape. We knew who we were, and at the end of the day, we had a proper country. They then passed the Human Rights Act, the Equality Act. They muddled the waters, they undermined our institutions, and as a result, immigration grew, it proliferated under the Tories, and frankly, we need change. And I think what Nigel has achieved, what Richard's achieved, what Lee's achieved, and hopefully another candidate in Thurrock, it's seismic. The BBC didn't even mention it for the first hour after the exit polls, which I thought was quite extraordinary. And the policy which I like most, which we have in our contract with the people, is to defund the BBC. So I want to thank two people, Alistair Harrison and Liam Porter, who helped me tremendously in Great Yarmouth. We fought the people's fight, and the people of Yarmouth said enough is enough. They want their country back, they want their constituency back, and they want some common sense back. And I look forward to trying my very best to deliver all this. Thank you.
Rupert, thank you very much indeed. We'll take some questions starting over there. Please say which organisation you are representing.
It will be ITV News. Mr Farage, you had very likely some problems with your candidates during the selection, racist, homophobic, offensive comments. You said that you inherited them. Do you then blame Mr Tice sitting next to you, who was in charge of the party when they were selected?
To be honest with you, if Richard Tice hadn't kept the party going through 3 very lean, rather difficult years, where for most of it, people said there was no need for Reform UK because the Conservatives under Boris, with a big majority, would deliver all of the things that we wanted. If he hadn't done that tirelessly, and actually having to put his hand in his pocket and loan the party very considerable sums of money, we wouldn't even exist. The truth of this election is we weren't ready for it. We weren't ready for it by a long shot. We decided to give it the best shot. There was a Charlie call put out for candidates. Anybody, please help us fill the list of candidates. There was always great risk with that, which is why we paid a man called Colin Bloom, a man who's worked in Number 10 for many years, but runs an outfit called vetting.com. It's why we paid him £144,000 to vet our candidates. He did not do so. He has not returned the money, and we'll be launching criminal legal action against him on Monday. It is awful. You know, I had to fight these accusations as UKIP leader for years, and you know what? I made it clear that UKIP would be a non-racist, non-sectarian party, and in the end it was. And we'll jolly well make sure, starting today, that we do not want people with desperately unpleasant views. We will not tolerate people with these views. They will be gone, and we'll have the funding after this, we'll have the support coming in to be able to absolutely professionalise the party. This will never happen again. This should be entertaining.
Cathy Newman from Channel 4 News.
Stitch up merchants, go on.
Mr Farage, do you still want to be Prime Minister in 2029, or do you think you're on the way? And if a Tory leader was to invite you back into the Conservative Party, would you go? Suella Braverman says she's up for it.
Well, Suella Braverman won't be leader of the Conservative Party, because she won't make the last 2, and of that I'm pretty certain. Frankly, let the Conservative Party tear themselves apart as they're going to in opposition, and actually, strangely, as they've been doing in government for the last 4 years. We don't want to intrude into their private grief. We want to get on with what we've got to do. And we have a huge job. We have a huge job. You know, I mean, literally, we don't even have a branch structure around the country. We've got so much to do, all of us, over the course of the next few months. We're going to focus on what we're doing. We're going to focus on going after the Labour vote. We're going to focus on vetting candidates for the English County Council elections that come up next year, so we know what we're about. Oh, look, I said that this was going to be the first step on a very, very big journey. That this was a as Richard and I discussed at the very beginning, this was a 5-year plan. It is a 5-year plan. I believe with structure, funding, professionalism, we can be in a very, very serious position to contest the 2029 general election. And if I'm still leader of it, fine. But I suspect by then, somebody younger and better looking would have come along. And when they do, I'll recognise it. But I will go on leading this, I will go on charging from the front until such a time that somebody else comes along. Thank you.
Sky News. Mr Farage, you've previously questioned whether you want to spend every Friday of the next 5 years in Clacton. Now you're Clacton's MP. Exactly how much time can your constituents expect?
Well, look, I mean, it was obviously a huge decision for me. You know, and when I said that, I was thinking out loud. You know, I mean, life's been pretty good for the last 4 years. I just thrown it all away. No, look, as an MEP, it was different because you represented a much bigger geographical area. There wasn't a link in the same way with the constituency. I very much hope that I can help to put Clacton on the map. I very much hope we can increase tourism. I very much hope I can encourage some outward investment to go there because the town needs it very, very badly. Of course, as a National Party leader, you know, I mean, I want to go to more Great Yarmouths. I want to go to more public events than we did in that big car park in Ashfield, and the same with Boston and Devon. And wherever we went, people coming in some cases in their thousands. Birmingham, nearly 5,000 people in that room. Of course I have a job on the national stage, but I've got a head start. I've got a big head start in Clacton. 4 local councillors have defected to me already. 2 of them, former chairman of the local district council. I believe there are 2 more going to come across to us tomorrow. So it has to be a combination of me and local councillors that make this work. But look, I haven't taken this decision lightly. It's a big call, and I will do my absolute best.
If I may, you're a very busy man. Are you going to give up your broadcasting career? Are you still planning to go and support Donald Trump's presidential campaign?
To be absolutely honest with you, I haven't got a clue. I mean, I haven't thought any of this through as yet. We've been so busy focused on running to the line of July the 4th that, you know, we have a lot to think about. But you know what? You say I'm a very busy man. You want to get a job done? Ask a busy man to do it. They always somehow find a time.
Alicia Fitzgerald, Times Radio. You keep saying you're going to vet your candidates properly now that you have time and when you have the resources to do so. How do you vet people for racism? How do you plan to do that effectively?
Very easy. Very easy. You go back through their social media records. You know, you obviously do police checks and things like that. No, it's not difficult to do it. And the message has to be clear and simple. You know, we don't want anyone like that involved with us. Indeed, you know, I mean, the racism problem in the Labour Party was enormous. But to Keir Starmer's credit, actually, he did quite a lot by getting rid of Jeremy Corbyn, who ironically has been re-elected. So there's an awful lot we can do. There is plenty of racism in British politics. It's mostly in the Labour Party.
Yes.
Katie Harris from the Daily Express. Reform came second in 98 constituencies. Are you disappointed that more of these weren't wins? And just one to Lee, if I may, are you sad to see some of your Tory Red Bull colleagues lose their seats in the election?
Well, I just for my first Nigel. Yeah, I'm sorry to see some of our Red Wallers go because not only were we politically aligned and we go through the chamber and the voting numbers together, we also enjoyed the old tipple at night time. So I'm going to struggle to find a drinking partner, but I've been reliably assured that Nigel's going to accompany me on several occasions at night time for the odd glass of wine. So, is that right, Nigel?
I think so, yeah. Sorry, what was the other part of the question? I missed it.
Are you disappointed there weren't more wins?
Oh, look. I mean, about 5 or 6 days ago, we had big momentum with us. 1 or 2 things did drag that down towards the end. But you know what? Today's not a reflection on what if. Today is the affirmation that the goals we set out to achieve, which were very, very clear, millions of votes and a bridgehead in Parliament, that has been achieved. And you're looking at it right on this platform now as we cross our fingers for the recount in Essex.
Thank you. Olivia Utley, GB News. The Tories lost 250 seats. In 166 of those seats, the Reform vote was bigger than the Tory majority. Are you responsible for the fact that we now have a Prime Minister who would like to see illegal immigrants given asylum?
Well, we've just got rid of a Prime Minister who let 50,000 illegal immigrants cross the English Channel. They come at double the pace that they came during Boris Johnson's time. The truth is, the Conservatives sunk themselves by betraying the 2019 vote. It's just as simple as that. They've done this to themselves, and there are now large parts of the country, the Red Wall in particular, where actually it's the Conservatives that are splitting the Reform vote, because we are now the challengers to Labour in those constituencies. And you know, if you think of the resources we had just a few short weeks ago, the lack of big branch structure, very little money, what we've done in the space of a few weeks is nothing short of remarkable. And I promise you, this is just the beginning of something very, very big indeed.
Thank you. Sophie Huskisson from the Daily Mirror. So Reform got 4, maybe 5 seats and 4.1 million votes. Tories may have lost a lot of seats, but they still got 121 seats and 6.8 million votes. Would you now admit, despite having previously declared yourself as so, that you're not in fact the leader of the opposition?
I said, if you listened to me a moment ago, that we will be the leading opposition voice in the country, and that is why we're going to take this all around the country with public events. We've got, as we speak, a member a minute joining the party. You know, opposition isn't just what happens in the House of Commons. Opposition is what happens out there in the country. And I'm familiar with this because we only got a referendum on our membership of the European Union because a big grassroots lobbying operation across the country with UKIP and others involved succeeded in forcing the Prime Minister into it. And just watch us, just watch us. Right, a couple more, Gwen. Anyone? I'll leave it with you. Gwen, I'll leave it with you. There's lots of hands up, so I'll leave it with you.
Nigel Farage, Real America's Voice News. When you see what's going on in America with the attacks against President Trump, you see similar attacks in particular by the media here, media in America. What would you say the biggest threat to Western democracy is right now, both in England and in America? And how important is this bridgehead that you guys have established here in helping defeat that?
Oh, the bridgehead, I think, is very important. I mean, to break through, and you know this from America, you know, try and win seats in the House of Reps if you're running not as a Democrat or a Republican, and you would say to me it was virtually impossible. Well, that's pretty much what we've managed to achieve overnight here in this country. Look, the threats to democracy are many, but in particular, it is the closing down of free speech. It is the teaching in schools and universities that has nothing to do with critical thinking whatsoever, and more to do with self-loathing about our nation, our identity, our culture, our history. And to be honest with you, I don't really blame the hard left for this. I blame conservative cowardice. You know, in this country over the last 14 years, the needle has moved sharply to the left on every single social and economic issue. Conservative cowardice actually is what has allowed, you know, the extremists on the left to bully us. And we are going to determinedly stand up, say what we think, because we believe in free speech.
Hi there, Genevieve Holland from the Telegraph. You speak about having achieved this bridgehead in Parliament, but with more than 400 Labour MPs, what can the four of you really achieve in the Commons? And also, will you be making a case for proportional representation in Parliament following last night's results?
I'll do the first part. I'll let Richard do the PR part, if I may. On the 10th of June, 1999, 3 of us were elected into a Parliament of over 750 MEPs. We were elected for UKIP. And everyone said, what on earth can 3 of you do in a great big place like that when they're all against you? And they were. And you know something? From those 3, at the next election it was 12, and then under a slightly different guise it was 29, and we topped 2 national polls, and we forced the Prime Minister into giving us a referendum, and we educated the British public. If we hadn't been there, there never would have been a referendum, and we certainly never would have won it, although there are some who think that by joining at 5 minutes to midnight, they were the decisive factor. So look, we can, by making the arguments, and by the way, everything we put in that contract with the people, they're the things we're going to campaign for. All right? An education system that teaches youngsters balance. Fight to get the level at which people start paying tax up to £20,000 a year to try and help those on benefits that are trapped by the 16-hour-a-week working rule. So we know what we're about, and that's the opposition that we're going to provide. And we'll give that voice in the House of Commons, but it's what we can do, mobilising millions in the country, that perhaps will be even more significant.
Thank you. Just on the question of PR, how can it be right that a Conservative Party that has just over 50% more votes than we have 30 times the number of MPs? How can it be right that the now ruling Labour Party has got just over double the number of votes that we have, and they've got some 100 times the number of MPs? This is a flawed democratic system, and I think that people will be looking at these results and saying this is not a real, genuine, fair democracy. And I think that the people will demand, absolutely demand, real change. We quite like referendum. We've got quite a good track record. And I'm absolutely convinced if there was a referendum this weekend on PR, we'd win it hands down. No ifs, no buts.
Good afternoon, Mr Farage. Robert Adderbassy from the Times. You talked about wanting to democratise reform. How are you going to do that? Are you going to allow members to vote in leadership elections in the future? You talked about that, and passing policy. And also, obviously, you sort of enjoy being a disruptor and taking on the establishment. You are entering Westminster. How are you going to sort of shake it up from the inside? You talked about the electoral system. Are you going to participate naturally as an MP, or do you imagine that you want to change some of the systems in Westminster itself?
Well, whether I have the power to change the systems, I don't know. And of course, I'm going to be a complete, along with 3 of the 4 here, a complete new boy next Tuesday when we turn up. So yeah, look, disruptor. We use that word in a negative context, but actually disruptor can be a very positive context because it sparks a very, very different debate. But we're not going into, not going in to behave terribly or anything like that, but certainly going in to challenge conventions, and certainly going in believing that the broad church that is the Conservative Party, that currently has no religion, simply won't be able to provide any sort of challenge at all. And we may be few in number, but we're absolutely united in what we believe in and what we stand for. Thank you.
And democratising the party.
We already have a constitution, and this is going to get put fully to the conference. It's going to be voted on. There is already a mechanism there that would allow the leader to be challenged. But also, it's important, if we're going to build branches, you have to allow branches to vote for their own chairman, to vote for their own candidates, to do all those things. I mean, it is an enormous job of work, but I'm absolutely determined to do it, because you can't fight county elections around England. You can't fight the Senate elections that will come, a year after that. You can't fight those things without being on the ground. The Lib Dems' success is down to the fact they've got local councillors. Interestingly, these 4 people that you see here all had effective, small, but effective ground campaigns. Most of our candidates last night were pretty much paper candidates, and that's why this result is as significant as it is. We've managed this in a short space of time. We've managed this, actually, with a party name that wasn't familiar to about 40% of the country. That shows me the potential for this is absolutely enormous.
Hi, Tim Stanley from the Telegraph. I have a question for Lee. Lee, you split with the Conservative Party over the issue of Islamism and the influence of religious extremism in politics. Last night, several Labour candidates either were defeated by or nearly defeated by candidates who are perceived to be sectarian in appeal. Do you feel vindicated today by what happened last night?
It's a reasonable question, I suppose. I've not really thought about it, but what I will say is my original comments, which I made a few months back, which sort of led me on this journey, they may have been a little bit time, but I stick by the sentiment that in London we see that on certain occasions that the streets are not our own anymore. They've been taken over by a group of people that just dislike our way of life. They're intent on causing problems. And the sad thing is that just a few months ago they actually influenced parliamentary process, which led to democracy being denied in the House of Parliament. So maybe you've got a point, maybe I could feel vindicated, because we're seeing increasingly now sort of sectarianism, encroaching towards politics. That's a dangerous place to be, that is, when one particular group of people can influence elections. You know, we've seen George Galloway, he actually got elected in Rochdale a few months ago. I don't think he ever mentioned Rochdale once during his campaign. That's a dangerous place to be, and we need to stand that down.
No, sadly, sectarian politics is here. We've never seen it in England in our lifetimes. It's here to stay. It's going to cause the Labour Party some very, very big problems by the time we get to 2029, of that I'm certain.
Robert Hartman from the Mail. Mr Farage, can I ask firstly, you acknowledged earlier on that your momentum slowed down in the closing stages, you said, for various reasons. Was one of those reasons your remarks about Russia and Ukraine in the West? Secondly, there's another election the day after tomorrow. Who do you want to win in France?
Oh, fine. Look, it's funny, isn't it, really? I said exactly the same thing about the eastward expansion of the European Union and NATO as Boris Johnson said. Boris Johnson said exactly the same thing a couple of years later. The difference was I said it in 2014 and I predicted what would happen. So, you know what? In politics, sometimes what you say gets taken completely out of context. And I guess that's the game we're in. It's a rough, old game. In France, look, I'm absolutely certain that Le Pen will be the next French president. And I believe that for over a decade. I really have. What will happen on Sunday, I can't predict. The extreme left don't seem very appealing to me. Le Pen's party, I disagree with them fundamentally on economics. They are very much a big state kind of party, but I understand the sentiments that are expressed about La France, about their culture, their identity, about the no-go zones. I mean, just head north of Gare du Nord and see what I mean in Paris, let alone Marseille. Their position on deportations, on citizenship, go way further than we would go, but I'd much rather they won than the extreme left.
Mr Farage, Ben Quinn from The Guardian. You suggested this morning that Andrea Jenkins could be sitting here with you if she had been brave enough to jump. Can you indulge us and tell us if there are many other Tory MPs who you've been in talks with about getting them to do so? And secondly, if I may, in terms of your zero tolerance approach to racism in the future, who will decide what is racism and what definition will you use?
I didn't use the term zero tolerance, you did, but I did say we'd be ruthless. Yeah, and we will be ruthless. And who will decide? Well, ultimately, if you get problems, it's the leader who gets affected. I'm a chairman that get affected worst by it. Look, this should never have happened. Things were put in place to stop it. I'm appalled they didn't, do the job. I want my money back, my 144 grand back. I really do. But no, we are going to sort this out. Now, look, Andrea Jenkins would have won if she'd been as brave as Lee. Lee, that's my view. What say you?
Yeah, I think she probably would. There's a lot of colleagues that find themselves unemployed this morning that took that leap of faith and joined the Reform Party as I did a few months back. And they just sat here today. We could have 8, 9, 10, maybe 15 MPs sat here today. But that's on them. They made that decision. I actually think, and I did say this to a few colleagues at the time who were wavering, that place over there is a far better place with people like Andrea in there sat debating and holding the Labour Party to account. But that's a decision they've made, and I think Parliament's going to be a poorer place for it.
Right, any more for any more?
Hi,
Almost there.
Helen Rodnell for LBC.
Hello.
How many votes do you reckon that those problematic, in some instances, racist candidates cost you? And also, you've been congratulated, Mr Farage, today by Donald Trump on Truth Social platform. Has he reached out to you personally?
Well, I'm very happy with the comments that he's made, and I'll just leave it at that. And do you know what? Do you know what? We can analyse things that were difficult. I think the Channel 4 stitch-up was one of the most outrageous, appalling things I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think that hurt us. I think the drip of candidates hurt us. I think the misinterpretation of what I said about Ukraine, namely that I supported Putin, which is absolute cobblers. All those things hurt to a certain extent. But you know something? I'm not sitting here today saying what could have been. I'm sitting here today with these colleagues, and hopefully one more in Essex, and I'm saying we were very clear on June the 3rd as to what our objectives were, and do you know what? We damn well achieved them. We're celebrating.
Hello, I'm Cathy Gingell, the Conservative woman, and the first person I think to congratulate you at this press conference. Do you believe that your 4.1 million vote has established you without question as a mainstream, non-notional far-right politician? Question number one. Number two, how long will it take for the mainstream media to catch up with that fact that you reflect mainstream, non-extreme, not extreme politics? It seems today the questions suggest they have a long way to go.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm going to answer that differently, if I may, and not directly. I want to say this. We completely and utterly dominated social media. Whether it was X, whether it was Facebook, whether it was Instagram, whether it was TikTok. We have completely dominated that landscape in the most remarkable way with a very, very small spend compared to the other parties. And I tell you something, the enthusiasm for what we stand for that is now growing rapidly amongst Gen Z is unlike anything I've ever seen before with the Brexit Party or with UKIP. Something is happening out there. Something remarkable is happening out there with this younger generation, and that, I think, points the way to what this party is going to be capable of doing over the next 6 months, over the next 5 years. Something is happening out there. So you know what? If mainstream media sneers at us, they sneer at us. But something through social media is happening. And I don't think it yet quite converted into votes, because a lot of them are 17, and a lot of them haven't got into the habit of voting, and many simply weren't registered, but there's something remarkable happening there. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. We're done.
All good?
Oh, you are so sweet. What's your name? Oh, lovely. Because I've met two reporters and I can see here's one, but she's got very...
Sorry.
I thought, I can't believe it. I thought every member of the